We are about to see multiple significant snowstorms happening in the next couple of weeks. What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I know there's quite a lot of people that are getting some lake effect snow. I hope you guys are enjoying that. I know Charlie's definitely enjoying that, although he doesn't have any power. But happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope you have a good holiday, and I hope you made it to your destination safely. That is the number one thing on my priority list, and hopefully you guys can travel safely tomorrow before we see our second round and then our third round of snow coming up. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it right here. So starting off, we have the North American model to go ahead and show you guys very quickly, just to kind of give you an idea of how this system is going to develop in the next couple of days. Once again, it's a combination of an Alberta Clipper and a Colorado low system. You start seeing that low pressure system really start to ramp up, 1,002 millibar system already by tomorrow night, and then you start seeing some snowfall really starting to turn up for much of Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, into Wisconsin. Very heavy snowfall also can impact a lot of regions, especially in central Illinois, southern Illinois, before it potentially transitions over to rain as the system starts to move through parts of the Midwest into Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. So we're going to want to pay attention to that moving forward. But also, we need to look at a few other aspects of this as well. You might see some snow on the backside of this once this temperatures start to get below freezing as well, so that's something to consider as well. But we've also looked at some soundings on this to take a quick gander at maybe the rain-snow line, particularly around St. Louis, just to kind of see what may be happening, which, by the way, there are winter storm watches out over there. I will be getting to those shortly, but I did look at the sounding for this very quickly, and I found something pretty intriguing right here that I do want to go ahead and show you guys. The thing that I'm watching right here is this temperature and dew point. You're probably wondering what's so important about that. What you're looking at right here is you're looking at your temperature and your dew point pretty much almost in line right here, well below freezing right here, a good 5 degrees Celsius, which would be about 23 degrees Fahrenheit, going all the way down to about 850 millibars, and then you see a bit of an inversion right here in the for this temperature right here, going from pretty much 23 degrees to about 35, and then back down to 33 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason I'm looking at that is you're probably wondering, what does that mean, Patrick? Well, if that held, that would generally mean it would potentially snow or it would melt before it got to the ground. But I am taking a look at this very considerably, because what we might see is potentially a scenario of cold air damming. What is cold air damming? Cold air damming is essentially cold air trapped in the upper elevations in the atmosphere. Usually there's more topographic forcing with that. That's where it's more common. But in some scenarios, the atmosphere can create its own cold air damming situation. So what we have going on for it right here is essentially you have your inversion and then remaining above freezing. What we need to watch is how the precipitation falls and how that temperature could potentially get influenced in the hours ahead, because if we see a scenario where maybe we see some very cold snow and some very cold air get pushed down from 850 to the surface, you could look at some more potential snowfall than possible, and that's what the NWS is also watching as well, hence your winter storm watch. For the borderline areas, this is for the St. Louis area right here, taking a quick gander at it. They are forecasting between 4 and 8 inches of snow possible for a winter storm watch. This might be upgrade to a potential winter storm warning down the line. We're going to want to pay attention to it. It's a very borderline case, especially this far to the south, that you're going to want to pay attention to. It lasts from late Friday night to Saturday evening. Travel could be very difficult. Absolutely. We're going to want to pay attention to that. And then as we go further into central Illinois and especially into Chicago and Milwaukee, this is what their winter storm watch is looking at at this current point. So here's what we have. They're looking at snowfall in excess of 6 inches. They're not 100% sure what inch range that is going to be at this point. They're thinking at least in excess of 6. That's why they issued the winter storm watch for the Chicago area. And now I'm going to check Milwaukee real quickly just to see what they're going for with their estimates up there as well. Look at this, in excess of 6 inches. So it's kind of an in excess of type of system and not a this snowfall amount to this snowfall amount situation right here. So that is something that we need to keep in mind. But winter storm watches from South Dakota all the way to northwest Indiana right now as well. That is going to make travel very difficult. So if you are in Iowa, if you're in Wisconsin, if you're in Illinois, get your travel plans done tomorrow. Don't go Black Friday shopping. I know the family probably wants to spend some time with you, but you guys got to get going. It's going to be pretty interesting. It's going to get pretty nasty for a lot of you guys, especially going into Saturday. And as we continue to take a quick gander at this right here, this snow system, it's expected to move through much of the Midwest going into Sunday. That's only going to exacerbate travel problems for a lot of people. I have a lot of friends that are going to be going back to school and all of that. This is going to really hinder your travel issues. On top of the amount of snowfall you're getting, you're still going to get snow on the way back. So it's best if you leave early if you can, and not wait, especially because this system for a lot of people is not going to exit until Sunday morning, maybe even Sunday afternoon for some areas. And on top of that, you have to deal with the cleanup and all of that. You're going to want to pay attention to see how this system will evolve. But by and large, this is going to be a very impactful system. I'm not particularly worried about the amount of snow accumulation we're going to get with this. Rather, I am more concerned about the potential impacts that this could be, especially since this is going to be a very big travel weekend. And on top of that, you're dealing with Arctic air behind this as well. That's going to plummet temperatures for a lot of people as well. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But I overall wanted to kind of start with this first snow system and then go from there. Here's the total snow accumulations that we have. This is according to the NAM model right here. Here's what we have for you guys. Potentially up to a foot of snow in Chicago, potentially up to 15 inches of snow outside of Peoria, potentially up to 20 inches of snow in Iowa, and again, another foot of snow for parts of Indiana, Michigan, Ohio. You're going to want to watch out for this. This is going to impact tens of millions of people and tens of millions of commuters. So, like I said, get your travel done tomorrow if you can. And then going to the more borderline areas right here, it's going to be interesting. It's mainly going to depend on if that cold air can get down to the surface or not. But regardless, you're looking at potentially 1 to 7 inches if you're in the St. Louis area. Like, for example, let's go ahead and go to Madison County on this run. On the bottom end of it, you're looking at potentially, I'd say, about 2 to 3 inches of snow on the southwestern side of it. And then as you get to the northern half of the county, you're looking at potentially 8 inches of snow. So it's a very, very borderline case that you're going to want to pay attention to down there. Still, I would travel potentially on Friday and not Saturday at this current point. That's just mainly to be safe rather than sorry. So that's what you're dealing with according to the NAM. NAM Nest is pretty interesting as well, although the snow hasn't quite stopped right here, but still already looking at 6+ inches of snow for a lot of regions in the United States. Let's go ahead and show you the GEM RDPS. I will say the GEM RDPS is quite, I find it unrealistic at this current point. St. Louis is not getting 20 inches of snow. We can throw that out. GEM GDPS, a little bit more realistic, but they are kind of counting on a second wave of snowfall moving through parts of the St. Louis region as time goes on. So that's going to be interesting, but still you're looking at a macro scale at least 8 to 12 inches of snow for a lot of areas in Chicago, Illinois, Iowa, Michigan, those areas as well. Europeans taking a quick look at this, definitely more concentrated in Milwaukee, Chicago, Grand Rapids, Des Moines, potentially all the way as far east as Detroit. GFS is a bit more spread out, so you do see that spreading in the models. They're kind of having a hard time figuring out where that freezing line is going to align and if they're taking into account cold air damming. That's more of a mesoscale type of situation, so they're probably not taking that as much into account, but looking at all of this right here, things are getting pretty interesting for many people in the Midwest for this weekend. Now let's go ahead and move on a little bit further down to the forecast. Here's what we have for December 1st, December 2nd, December 3rd. This is going to potentially be another Midwest system to start, and then it's going to really ramp up for the Mid-Atlantic as well. You're going to want to take this very seriously. If you're in the Mid-Atlantic, December 2nd, December 3rd is going to be your day. GMGDPS is definitely overdoing it on the frozen precipitation, the mixed precipitation. They're overdoing the inversions and the calculations up there. So that's why I'm kind of a little bit more reluctant to rely on that. But looking at this, you're looking at potentially Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, potentially even as far south as Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, seeing some snowfall. And if we go ahead and show you even the GFS as well, GFS definitely shows a lot more snowfall for Philly, D.C., Baltimore, New York, Boston. Those 5 cities right there, 5 of the biggest cities and biggest metroplexes in the United States right there. And you're going to want to watch out for that as well. And taking a quick look at snow accumulations based on that, snow accumulations are going to be pretty interesting for a lot of areas in the northeastern United States. For the Mid-Atlantic, you're taking a quick gander at this. According to the GFS, you're looking at maybe 4 inches in D.C., areas in northern Montgomery County, for, potentially as high as 11 inches. Philly could definitely see some snow, like Bucks County, for example. This is kind of your epitome of the rain-snow line over here in Bucks County right here. Potentially as low as like 3, 4, 5 inches, as high as a foot of snow in the northern half of the county. So that's something that you're going to want to pay attention to as well. New York City as well, looking at maybe as not very much in parts of Queens and Brooklyn, and potentially up to 10 inches in the Bronx. So that's something to watch out for. In Boston, 7 inches of 7 to 8. You're going to want to pay attention to that, but that's just the GFS. Keep that in mind. The GMGDPS, taking a quick gander at that, definitely shows that rain snow line a bit more so than previously. It's mainly in rural Pennsylvania, like Scranton and those areas, and parts of western Massachusetts and the mountainous regions. Looking at the Euro, a bit more moderate with the snowfall, a little bit lower, like 3 to 5 inches for a lot of regions as well, but still a lot of model uncertainty and a lot of things left to go with this. You're going to want to pay attention to this down the line. But now let's go ahead and give you an idea of what may be happening after December 3rd. Keep in mind, by the time we get to this point, it's more so fantasy land. Take it with a grain of salt. But we saw multiple scenarios, multiple snow systems, and another Alberta Clipper system moving through parts of Illinois on the 6th and the 7th. That's still a possibility, moving into New England and bringing snowfall. Another Clipper really nosediving into parts of Illinois, Kentucky, and those areas, going into the 8th right there. Something we'll have to pay attention to. And then the 9th, you start seeing some more snowfall in the mountains. Another snow system starts to develop in parts of the upper Midwest again, but still you have quite a lot left to go, and another Colorado low that we're going to want to watch develop down the line. But still, it's like I said, nothing is set in stone. We're going to have to watch out for it. We're going to have to pay attention to it. That was just the 0Z GFS run. Let me show you how different the 12Z GFS run is in comparison. Mainly staying a bit further up to the north and not as intense, so you're definitely going to want to pay attention to that as well. But things are starting to get more active, and we're also going to want to watch those temperatures going into December. Let's go ahead and show you the surface temps. Right here, we're going to pull the European right here for this as well. Here's what we have for your, actually no, we'll just stay at like this. Here's what you have for your temperatures going into Black Friday. That freezing line, my goodness, goes all the way down to Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas. And that's not an insignificant margin either. That's 31, 32 degrees all the way down to the deep south. That's not insignificant. It does start to warm up a bit more, but then that freezing line gets a bit more interesting because of the snow system. And then as that low pressure system starts to move through, the cold air it brings behind it goes from about 35 degrees all the way down to potentially the teens for some areas. Look at this. For a lot of areas, Monday morning, you're looking at temperatures in the single digits in central and northern Illinois, all of Wisconsin, the upper peninsula of Michigan, Minnesota gets in the negatives, so does the Dakotas as well. Things are really going to ramp up down the line, and then as you get to the 12th, as you get to the not the 12th, the 2nd and the 3rd, it does start to calm down, but you have another Arctic push moving into parts of the U.S., especially Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, as well. That Arctic air, that polar vortex, really just pushes through much of the United States throughout much of the time. And then look at this. By the end of the European run, you have a significant blast moving through much of the United States. That's a low pressure system. You have a massive cold front behind it. That's really going to drive down temperatures for a lot of the United States, a lot of the mountain regions, a lot of the Great Plains, a lot of the Midwest. You're going to want to take this super seriously right here. And I also will say that a pattern like this that is more wavy definitely is more favorable for an active pattern, an active snow pattern for a lot of regions. There's a possibility we could see a white Christmas because of this. It just depends on what's going to happen for the rest of December. We're going to have to pay attention to see how that aligns, and we'll keep you updated on it here. I want to go ahead and also show you the CFS run as well, just to give you a general gist of what may be happening. This 850 right here, you're seeing that wavy pattern really continuing to ramp up for a lot of regions. The Midwest, another big situation, a big Arctic plunge. By the time we get to the 18th and the 19th, things start to get a little bit better on the 20th and the 21st, but still those cold temperatures persist all the way up to near Christmas right here. And then you have another trough and another low pressure system starting to develop right here, and things really start to go off on the 26th, on the 27th of December in terms of the temperature right there. This is, once again, when you see a wavy pattern like this, when you see all those troughs and all those ridges, that is a very active pattern. It may not be the coldest pattern. It may not be like 2013, 2014 in terms of the temperature, but definitely could be 2013 to 2014 in terms of the amount of snowfall and in terms of the amount of activity that we're seeing right here. Multiple snow system after multiple snow system after multiple snow system, back to back to back to back, producing potentially multi-inch or maybe even up to a foot snowfall for multiple areas back to back. Like I talked about this earlier, the Midwest, this is more of a prime type of situation where the Midwest could see back to back to back multi-inch snowfalls for with how it's going to go. So, and this kind of pattern definitely exacerbates that moving forward. And then as you get to the end of December, it starts to get a little bit more temperate and a little bit more, not necessarily cold, but a little bit more manageable for a lot of regions right here. But still, throughout much of the month, this is quite the active pattern, like I've said over and over again. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but this is something that we need to bring up and something we need to talk about, especially as Thanksgiving's coming around, especially as we start looking at how December is going to play out right here. This pattern's favorable for a lot of significant snowfall for the Midwest, some significant snowfall potentially for the Mid-Atlantic in New England, definitely significant snowfall for the mountain regions as well. They're going to get snow regardless of this, especially as those Colorado lows and especially those low pressure systems really start to ramp up from there. But the main thing that we can take away from this is essentially we're in for a pretty wild month of winter weather, in my opinion. And we are going to likely see several pretty significant snowfall events based on the climatology, based on the patterns, based on the troughs and ridges, based on the synoptics as well. It's definitely a favorable environment for a lot of heavy snow, and things really are going to be very interesting, especially after tomorrow. And like I said before, the main takeaway you should get is if you are watching this from the Midwest or the Mid-Atlantic, get your travel plans done tomorrow. That is the one thing we need to emphasize more than anything in this video. Get your travel plans done tomorrow. I know it's Black Friday. I know you want to go out shopping with family and all that stuff. I wouldn't for this year. I would wait till next year or wait till Cyber Monday when you can get stuff online. I know Small Business Saturday is going to suck and all of that. For a lot of people, it's not going to be the best Small Business Saturday. I know a lot of people want to do that as well, but this weekend is not the time to do that. And if you're a business owner that's looking at this, my best advice for you, and you don't have to take this, and you can take this either way rather, is I would delay your Black Friday sales, your Black Friday shopping, or at least your potential sales. I would hold them off until next weekend. until this weather clears up, you get more foot traffic, and you can kind of do that, or just even extend it throughout the rest of the week. I think that would still be very beneficial for you guys, and we'll keep you updated on the weather here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel, but still to the business owners, I want to emphasize that option as well. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe.